Okay, so we're gonna talk about one strategy that's typically used in revenue management, which is called booking limits and protection levels, which was tightly connected to the examples that we saw while we were playing the game. Okay, especially in the last stage. So let's go for a hotel example. So we have the Hyatt in Philadelphia. It's in Center City, located where some of the commercial shops are. And there's they have 118 rooms, okay, and they have 2 fares. So the fares are already optimized. You have one fare which is low fare, called the discount fare for midweek stay, which is more pointing to leisure travelers. And then you have the regular fare that is targeting business travelers, which is substantially higher than the other one. Okay, so regular is the high, and then you have the discount fare pointed to the leisure travelers. You could actually fill all of the hotel with the leisure travelers, right? So if you just keep the low fare, you can sell all your rooms pretty easily. Okay, but you don't want to do that, right? Because you have some demand at the high fare, and so you want to keep some rooms for the high fare demand. The only issue here is that the high fare demand typically arrives closer to the booking date. Okay, right? They come last minute, right? They book their flight late on, and then they also book their hotel at the last minute. And you don't know how many business travelers will come in, right? But you have some data on it. You have historical data showing typically how many business travelers come a few days before, reservations come a few days before the booking date. And if you have data, we can represent it by a histogram or some other way of representing sort of the uncertainty that you have on this demand. So it's critical here. We have uncertainty on the demand. Otherwise, this problem would be easier, right? But the fact that business travelers know the demand for those travelers is uncertain, right? You want to have to sort of manage that uncertainty in order to maximize the revenue that you get from the hotel. Okay. So you want to sort of sell as many rooms as you can, but also getting getting a good profit out of it, which means selling some of the low fare to fill the rooms and reserving some rooms for the high fare customers. Okay. So we're going to introduce here 2 concepts. One is the protection level. The protection level is how many rooms you're going to reserve for the high value customers, right? So in the example where you're playing in the game, many of you were thinking, I need to have a number of rooms on day 5. That's your protection level. That's probably some of you decided to keep 10, 15, I don't know. You try different numbers there, right? That's your protection level. Okay. Now, when you have a protection level, that implies that there's a booking limit. So how does this work, right? You have a total of 118 rooms, and you protect some of those rooms. So what you do typically is you start with the low fare and you start selling at the low fare. Okay. You start selling rooms, and then when you start reaching the protected rooms, right? That establishes a booking limit, the maximum number of rooms that you will sell at the low fare, right? When you go and buy a ticket, right? And they say, well, we have this low fare available, but there's only 4 seats left at this fare. That's the booking limit, right? You're approaching the booking limit. And then once the booking limit is reached, the low fare disappears. It's not listed anymore. And basically the only available price is the high fare, waiting for the high value customers to come in and buy at the high fare. Okay. So this is typically how this is implemented. You keep a list price, low fare, you reach the booking limit, you increase the price, and then you basically sell to the high value customers that come at the end. Okay. That's how we're basically looking at this problem. So now you face a trade-off, right? You have to protect rooms. And you can protect too many rooms or too few rooms. Okay. So you face a trade-off. If you protect too many rooms, you protected many rooms, but only a few business travelers came in, you ended up with empty rooms. And remember, you denied these rooms to low fare customers. Okay, so you could have sold these rooms, but you didn't sell them because you were waiting for the high value customers who didn't show up. Okay, so that is you protected too much the overage cost. Okay, you protected too many rooms. You ended up with empty rooms, overage cost. There's also an underage cost. You protected very few rooms. Let's say you protected 10 rooms, but 20 business travelers came in. You sold those extra 10 rooms at a low fare, which you could have sold at a high fare. That's the underage cost. You underprotected rooms. Okay? And now we have to choose Q to balance between these two costs. That's the news vendor, and we know how to use that. Okay? So this is exactly the same as the news vendor, where the demand is the demand for the high fare, okay? Where the overage cost, right, is the cost of having an empty room, which is the opportunity cost of selling at the low fare. And the underage cost, you protected too few, is the difference between the high fare and the low fare. You could have sold these rooms at a higher fare, but you sold them at the low fare and they were not available for the high value customers. Okay. So we do our calculations. We know we have to reserve a certain number, we have to protect a certain number of rooms. We're going to call it Q, that basically balance between these two, right? The cost of protecting too much, having empty rooms, or the cost of protecting too little, selling them at a low price when you could have sold them at a high price. Okay, so that gives you CO and CU. You put it in our critical ratio equation, and you get this ratio, RH minus RL divided by RH. Okay, and so this gives us the optimal number of rooms to protect. Okay. It's essentially a news vendor, same trade-off, different setting. Okay, this is actually what is used in practice to set the booking limits and the protection levels. It's called, in the airline industry, it's called the Littlewood formula. Okay, but it's essentially the news vendor. Okay, so again, the ratio you want to protect rooms so that the probability of satisfying all the demand from the high value customers is equal to the critical ratio. The critical ratio is the difference of rates divided by the high rate. Okay, we'll go through our example now. So in our example, we have the high rate, the low rate, and the critical ratio is about 30%. Again, this means that you have to protect an amount that, given your demand, you're going to satisfy the high value demand with a probability of 30%. All the high value demand with probability of 30%. Okay. In this particular case, right, when you look at the histogram and the distribution of the demand, you see that if you protect 24 rooms, you'll satisfy all the demand from the high value customers with probability 30%. Therefore, this model suggests that you should protect 24 rooms. Protecting 24 rooms means that you will have a booking limit of 94 for the low fare. To implement this, you start with low fare, you sell. When you start reaching 94, you tell the customers only a few units left. When you reach 94, the low fare disappears, you jump to the high fare.